We begin our journey tonight, not on the bustling streets of Manhattan, but in the quiet, reflective space of artistic creation and eventual betrayal. Our focus rests on the towering Art Deco masterpiece, the Chrysler Building. It is a structure of immense beauty and mechanical perfection, but one that is permanently shadowed by a tale of professional bitterness, financial injustice, and the lingering presence of a wronged genius. The man whose creative spirit is etched into every gleaming arch and radial sunburst is the architect, William Van Alen. The man whose name is permanently affixed to the building and who reaped the glory is the automotive titan Walter P. Chrysler. The lore of the building begins with the intimate, destructive friction between these two ambitious men. Van Alen designed the Chrysler Building to be his magnum opus, the perfect fusion of classical elegance and the roaring machine age. Every curve, every piece of inlaid African marble, every metallic eagle was a testament to his artistic vision. He poured his life, his savings, and his reputation into this skyscraper, pushing the boundaries of architectural possibility to create not just an office tower, but a monument to modernity itself. Walter P. Chrysler, however, saw the building not as art, but as an advertisement, a vertical corporate banner dedicated to his own colossal ambition and the flawless power of the Chrysler automobile. He demanded speed, he demanded height, and crucially, he demanded absolute control over the final product. The building became a silent, high-stakes contest of wills, Van Alen fighting for purity of design, and Chrysler fighting for supremacy and self-promotion. The lore suggests that the tension was present from the start, a low, constant vibration underlying the construction noise. Van Alen felt he was not merely an architect, but a partner in the creation of a legend. He was deeply personally invested in its success, particularly the crucial race to become the world's tallest building, a contest we will explore in detail later. The ultimate tragedy, the core of the building's lingering curse, lies in the financial betrayal. Upon the building's triumphant completion in 1930, after the global celebration of its height was secured, Walter P. Chrysler refused to pay Van Alen his final, substantial fee. The stated reason was a legal dispute over the contracts and Van Alen's alleged side dealings with subcontractors. However, the bitter reality, known to architectural historians, was a raw power play. Chrysler had the building, and he had the name. He now sought to crush the man who had actually created the form. Van Alen was forced into a devastating, prolonged legal battle that he eventually lost, costing him his savings, his reputation, and his spirit. The lore suggests that the pain of this betrayal was so profound that it physically and spiritually bound the architect to his creation. He was denied the financial reward and the professional credit, leaving him forever linked to the tower as a silent, unpaid ghost whose presence is etched into the very materials of the structure. This injustice is the unstated flaw in the Chrysler Building's perfection. It is a monument built on a lie of credit, and its gleaming metallic surfaces are said to hold the cold, reflective energy of the architect's heartbreak. A constant, subtle reminder that true genius was ultimately overshadowed and exploited by crude, overwhelming corporate ambition. The building, for all its beauty, is therefore consecrated by a curse of ingratitude. The true moment of fame, the defining act that gave the Chrysler Building its immediate legendary status, was the construction of its secret spire. This event is not merely a technical detail. It is the physical manifestation of the rivalry and the ruthless ambition that permeates the building's lore. It is a story of concealment, surprise, and a literal race to touch the sky. In the late 1920s, the battle for the title of the world's tallest building was a furious public contest between several projects, primarily the Chrysler Building and the nearby Manhattan Company Building, now 40 Wall Street. Both projects were pushing height limits, but the Manhattan Company Building, designed by H. Craig Severance, briefly claimed victory when its construction topped out at 927 feet. Chrysler and Van Alen knew they needed a hidden weapon. The plan devised by Van Alen was audacious: to construct the final 125-foot spire inside the building, unseen by competitors or the public, and then raise it in one dramatic, unannounced gesture. The spire, an assembly of highly reflective Nirosta stainless steel arches, was fabricated in 4 nested sections and assembled inside the 69th floor's firewall. This internal construction kept the actual final height a complete secret. Imagine the tension within the construction crew. They were participating in a clandestine, high-stakes architectural gamble. The lore suggests that the secrecy was absolute. Only a handful of senior engineers and a specialized rigging crew knew the true nature of the structure hidden high inside the masonry. The great moment of ascent occurred on August 16, 1929. On a quiet Saturday afternoon, the giant steel derrick used for construction slowly extended from the top of the building. Then, in a dramatic, calculated move lasting only about 90 minutes, the spire was lifted through the opening in the dome and bolted into place. The effect was immediate and devastating to the competition. The Manhattan Company Building, which had celebrated its short-lived triumph just weeks before, was instantly and irreversibly surpassed. The secret ascent gave the Chrysler Building an instantaneous triumphant victory, elevating its final height to 1,046 feet and securing the world record for 11 months until the Empire State Building took the title. This act of sudden, decisive vertical expansion is the ultimate physical expression of Walter P. Chrysler's ruthless ambition. The building was built not just to be tall, but to win. The spire, now the gleaming crown we see, is a constant reminder of that victorious yet secretive moment. The lore suggests that the hidden derrick used for the lift was not immediately removed. For a period, it remained inside the spire structure, perhaps as a silent trophy or a practical precaution. This internal mechanical presence added to the lore of the spire being more than decoration. It was a machine for achievement, a secret weapon sheathed in stainless steel. The spire, therefore, is not merely beautiful. It is the silent monument to cunning and triumph.
Unlike the Washington Monument, which began with meticulous Masonic ceremony and a dedicated cornerstone, the Chrysler Building started with a notable, almost aggressive lack of ritual. This absence is itself a crucial part of the building's lore, suggesting a foundation built too quickly and too ruthlessly on raw, unbridled ambition, lacking the spiritual consecration necessary for quiet longevity. The traditional cornerstone ceremony, a ritual meant to set the spiritual intention and stability of a major structure, was notably downplayed or skipped entirely. If a cornerstone exists, its placement was hurried and obscure, lacking the public documentation and symbolic offerings of its historical peers. This omission is interpreted in the building's lore as a sign that the building was erected without consulting the necessary foundational truths. The lore suggests that the building was consecrated not by ceremony, but by speed and monetary power. The entire project was driven by the frantic, often chaotic pace of the race for the world's tallest title. Time was money, and every delay for ritual or careful planning was seen as a threat to supremacy. This aggressive speed, while necessary for the victory, is viewed by some as the original sin of the Chrysler Building. The foundation itself sits deep within Manhattan's clay and schist bedrock. The subterranean work, the anchoring of the colossal weight of steel and stone into the earth, was a massive undertaking. The lore of the cursed stone suggests that the foundation was laid with such haste that the natural, spiritual balance of the land was ignored. The immense upward thrust of the skyscraper, symbolizing soaring ego and industrial might, was anchored directly into the Earth's stubborn, unyielding darkness without a formal blessing. There are rumors, too, of a missing time capsule. While many rival buildings included elaborate vaults to enshrine their moment in history, the Chrysler Building, in its haste, either omitted the ritual or sealed a capsule with no official record, suggesting that its builders were concerned only with the present moment of triumph, not the distant judgment of history. The curse carried by the stone, the massive foundation structure, is that the building's relentless vertical energy, its ambition, is fundamentally unbalanced. It is all ascent, all ego, lacking the grounding stability provided by ceremonial humility. The foundation is robust, certainly, but its spiritual consecration is flawed. This imbalance is often cited as the root cause of the later personal and professional tragedy that befell its architect, William Van Alen. The building is a monument to the machine age at its most cynical, a structure where human genius was treated as a disposable commodity and spiritual intention was sidelined for corporate expediency. The cornerstone's curse is the quiet, foundational flaw in the building's perfect sheen, a reminder that a structure dedicated solely to ambition is destined to carry the heavy weight of its own creation.
Perhaps the most famous and distinctive features of the Chrysler Building, aside from its crown, are the large, menacing stainless steel gargoyles that jut out dramatically from the 61st floor. These are not medieval grotesques. They are stylized industrial guardians shaped like the heads of massive American eagles, and they carry a powerful, deep lore. These eagles are a profound expression of Walter P. Chrysler's ego and the automotive heritage of the building. They were modeled after the hood ornaments of the 1929 Chrysler Roadster, a direct, unmistakable advertisement placed 800 feet above the city. Their placement, however, also serves a powerful spiritual function, making them the silent, frozen eyes of the tower. In the lore, these eagles are the building's perpetual guardians. They are placed at the structural breakpoint where the main masonry shaft transitions into the tapering crown, marking the boundary between the corporate offices and the celestial height of the spire. They are sentinels fixed in a permanent state of fierce watchfulness, protecting the structure from both physical and symbolic intrusion. The choice of stainless steel for the eagles is crucial to their lore. Unlike traditional stone, the steel is reflective, hard, and cold. Their surfaces capture the changing light and the shifting colors of the sky, giving them a living, metallic sheen. They are not static. They are reflective, industrial spirits, constantly changing with the weather, their gaze fixed on the dense, horizontal world below. The lore deepens when tied back to William Van Alen. Given the architect's ultimate betrayal and non-payment, the eagles are often interpreted as the architect's own angry eyes, a permanent, unblinking glare fixed upon the city and the financial district that allowed him to be wronged. Van Alen's genius is immortalized in their design, but their aggressive stance is said to carry the cold, reflective energy of his professional resentment. They are a monument to the architect's watchful, unappeased ghost. These eagles are also masters of the Art Deco aesthetic, the angular, stylized power that sought to integrate nature's force with industrial might. They represent the apex of the machine age's interpretation of power. Sharp, streamlined, and absolutely unyielding. They are the talons of ambition fixed to the stone. The sheer height of their placement contributes to their unsettling power. They are too high to be easily examined, existing instead as massive, looming silhouettes. They observe the city's movements, the rising smoke, the changing traffic patterns, the distant movement of people in a perpetual state of silent, metallic judgment. The gargoyles of the 61st floor are not simply ornamentation. They are the powerful, enduring symbols of the tower's core energy. They represent industrial pride, fierce territoriality, and the lingering, cold vengeance of the betrayed architect whose spirit is forever bound to the flawless, unfeeling steel. They stand sentinel, guarding the curse.
The dazzling stepped crown of the Chrysler Building is the most recognizable feature of the Manhattan skyline. But its brilliance is due to an advanced industrial material, Enduro Ka2 stainless steel. The lore of the crown rests entirely on this material choice, transforming the metallic peak into a potent symbol of industrial alchemy and celestial aspiration. The crown is a series of 7 concentric arches, a number deeply significant in esoteric traditions, often representing the 7 celestial spheres or the 7 steps of alchemical purification. The arches are covered in the high-performance stainless steel, an alloy of iron, nickel, and chromium. The use of this specific alloy in 1930 was an architectural and metallurgical triumph. It was chosen for its high reflectivity, its anti-corrosion properties, and its mirror-like ability to catch and refract light. The material choice completes the building's alchemical journey. The structure begins with the heavy, dark, subterranean foundations, the nigredo, or blackening. It moves through the massive steel frame and masonry shaft, the albedo, or purification, and it culminates in the shining, enduring stainless steel crown, the rubedo, or reddening, the creation of the philosopher's stone. The crown is essentially the cap of the machine age. Unlike the gold-plated caps of ancient obelisks or the stone pyramids of older architecture, this cap is made of a human-created material, a testament to scientific ingenuity and industrial dominance. The highly polished surface is designed to reflect the sun, the moon, and the surrounding city lights, making the crown constantly change in color and character. It is a living mirror of the sky and the city's ambition. The stainless steel surfaces are arranged in a pattern of radial sunbursts and interlocking triangles, a classic Art Deco motif that explicitly links the industrial form back to solar worship and cosmic geometry. The arches are designed to capture the light and focus it, making the building's peak appear to radiate energy rather than merely reflect it. This effect is most pronounced at night when the crown is illuminated from within. The illumination of the crown is a ritual in itself, a topic we will visit later. The lighting transforms the cold, industrial material into a celestial beacon, making the steel arches appear warm, golden, or even green, depending on the internal lights. This nocturnal spectacle reinforces the alchemical transformation. The steel, the base metal of industry, is transformed by light into an object of spiritual awe. The crown is also the physical site of Van Alen's genius and Chrysler's ultimate victory. The 7 arches rising up to the secret spire represent the 7 steps to the pinnacle of architectural triumph. The metal is unyielding, permanent, and perfectly suited to carry the immense weight of corporate ambition and the enduring artistry of its wronged architect. The crown is the building's metallic, permanent promise of industrial eternity.
To understand the soul of the Chrysler Building, one must descend below the opulent lobby and meditate on its original foundation, the vast subterranean garage and automotive showroom. This hidden infrastructure speaks volumes about the building's true identity as a monument not to high finance, but to the raw, noisy power of the machine age. Walter P. Chrysler built the tower as the vertical headquarters for his colossal automotive empire. The lobby itself, with its dark geometric marble, served as the immediate gateway to this industrial heart. The entire substructure was designed around the vehicle. The building housed one of the city's largest public garages, capable of holding hundreds of automobiles, the very product that fueled Chrysler's success. The lore suggests that the original design and function of the lower levels were almost sacrificial. The enormous multi-level garage was the building's dark, heavy engine room, silently powering the gleaming architecture above. The steady hum of idling engines, the smell of oil and iron, and the rhythmic, constant movement of vehicles provided the pulse for the entire structure. The building literally relied on the machine for its commerce and identity. This hidden garage connected the building directly to the horizontal reality of New York City's street life and infrastructure. It was the point where the gleaming, ethereal ambition of the spire met the messy, mechanical reality of industrial production. This fusion is the core statement of the Art Deco movement, integrating the divine, vertical ideal with the material, industrial reality. There are also rumors concerning the mechanics of the Cloud Club, the exclusive high-altitude club, which we will explore later, was often patronized by executives who arrived directly through the subterranean garage, using private elevators. This created a sense of vertical exclusivity. One moved directly from the industrial bowels of the earth to the celestial height of the spire, bypassing the ordinary commerce of the street-level offices. The lore of the subterranean heart is crucial because it contextualizes the famous gargoyles and medallions. The massive steel eagles and the automotive hubcaps that decorate the building's exterior were not just decoration, they were direct extensions of the noisy, powerful machinery housed beneath the marble floor. The building's true identity was rooted in the smell of oil and the sound of the engine. The building, therefore, is not a simple skyscraper. It is a vertical corporate machine. The hidden garage represents the powerful engine driving the entire structure, grounding its soaring celestial aspirations in the hard metallic reality of Walter P. Chrysler's industrial power. The silent, empty spaces of the old garage today still hold the heavy, faint residue of that early roaring machine age power.
The greatest lore surrounding the Chrysler Building is the persistent, quiet belief in the architect's ghost, the lingering, unappeased spiritual presence of William Van Alen, bound to his greatest masterpiece by the cold chain of betrayal and non-payment. This is not a malicious haunting, but a silent, perpetual watch.
The core of this belief stems from the overwhelming sense of injustice that settled upon Van Alen. Having dedicated years to the building's design and overseeing every detail of its revolutionary construction, he was denied the final professional credit and the financial means to recover. Architectural legend suggests that this profound sense of unresolved ownership caused his spiritual essence to remain fixed upon the structure. The lore describes the ghost as an unseen inspector, a solitary, well-dressed figure, often glimpsed in the upper, older office spaces near the crown, or in the empty spaces of the original observation decks after the building closes. He is not heard as much as felt, a palpable sensation of intense, critical observation. The ghost is believed to be perpetually engaged in silent inspection. Since he was never truly allowed to enjoy the building's triumph or benefit from its success, the ghost spends eternity examining its flaws, confirming the precision of its design, and guarding against structural deterioration. Custodians and longtime tenants in the upper floors sometimes report the brief, fleeting sensation of someone looking over their shoulder, only to turn and find the room empty, lit only by the distant glow of the crown. The reflective materials of the building are key to this lore. The highly polished stainless steel of the crown and the eagles is said to act as a spiritual mirror, capturing and holding the reflective energy of the architect's perpetual gaze. The architect's eyes, fixed in steel, remain active. The most poignant aspect of the lore is the ghost's attachment to the hidden spire. Because the spire was Alan's secret, definitive act of genius, the final structural punchline that secured the world record, it is believed that his spectral presence is strongest within the cramped, inaccessible space above the observation deck. He is guarding his final, crucial architectural secret. The quiet tragedy of the ghost is that he is bound to the place where he was most triumphant and yet most crushed. He watches his structure receive endless global praise, but he can never claim the full rightful glory. The building is his prison, gilded in stainless steel and lit by the constant reminder of his uncompensated genius. The unseen ghost of Van Alen represents the silent cost of ambition. He is the enduring embodiment of the curse placed upon the stone, a reminder that when creative genius is crushed by corporate power, the resulting monumental triumph will forever carry the heavy, reflective shadow of betrayal.
The ground floor lobby of the Chrysler Building is a stark, theatrical masterpiece of Art Deco design and the physical point where the building's lore begins its vertical ascent. This space is defined by its deep, commanding colors, its sharp geometry, and the careful manipulation of light. A true environment of dark, luxurious power. The entire lobby is dominated by the lavish use of red Nubian marble, sometimes called African marble or Moroccan marble, an incredibly dark, highly polished material characterized by deep, reddish-brown hues and intense, swirling patterns. The selection of this opulent, dramatic stone was intentional.
It drowns the corporate offices in a heavy, serious, and almost ritualistic atmosphere. The dark geometry of the lobby is key. The floor and wall patterns are composed of sharp, angular lines, zigzags, chevrons, and interlocking triangles, classic Art Deco motifs that emphasize speed, movement, and concentrated energy. This geometric complexity contrasts with the vertical simplicity of the exterior shaft. It creates an atmosphere of organized, intense power, the perfect gateway to a massive corporate machine. The lore of the lobby focuses on its role as a transitional zone. The dark marble represents the heavy, subterranean foundation and the raw, earthy power of the machine age, the garage below. As the visitor moves through the space, the goal is to ascend toward the light and purity of the steel crown. The lobby is the deliberate, dark crucible through which the ascending individual must pass. The hidden light sources contribute significantly to the lobby's spiritual mood. The lighting is typically subdued, diffused, and carefully placed to highlight the deep veins and dramatic patterns in the marble. The lobby is designed to feel somewhat enclosed, focusing attention inward and upward. The low light and dark surfaces create a sense of secrecy and exclusivity, a feeling that one has entered a private, powerful realm. A major feature of the lobby is the famous mural ceiling, painted by Edward Trumbull. The mural depicts stylized scenes of industry, flight, and construction, a celebration of the very process that created the building. The lore suggests that this mural serves as a secular consecration, a visual spell cast to honor the workers and the machinery, ensuring the building's mechanical success. The intense, dark material of the lobby is a quiet reflection of the building's internal corruption. The beautiful, expensive African marble, while signifying luxury, also carries the mood of the betrayal and the curse. The dark, swirling patterns can be interpreted as the chaotic, greedy energy that defined the building's creation, forever captured in stone. The lobby is not just a waiting room, it is a highly ritualized space, a temple of commerce built on dark, commanding materials and secretive light. It sets the tone for the entire structure, demanding reverence and conveying the massive, serious weight of the corporate ambition it contains.
The sensation of immense height in the Chrysler Building is not just visual. It is physical, psychological, and integrated into the very structural design through the building's deliberate taper. The terrifying taper refers to the way the building narrows dramatically as it rises, a feature that contributes to the building's graceful appearance, but enhances the sensory experience of wind and sway at the summit. The structural taper is essential for aesthetics and stability, gradually reducing the weight and surface area exposed to wind shear. However, in the Chrysler Building, the taper is architecturally exaggerated by the design of the crown and the spire, which rapidly narrow into a needle-like point. This final dramatic narrowing enhances the sense of being isolated and acutely exposed to the elements. The lore of the building's height is centered on the subtle, low-frequency sway felt near the upper floors, and especially in the old observation and cloud club levels. All skyscrapers sway, but the slender, tapering design of the Chrysler Building allows for a particularly perceptible motion on windy days. This movement, while harmless, induces a powerful sense of primal fear, the knowledge that the massive stone and steel structure is subtly yielding to the indifferent forces of nature. The structural tapering is also directly linked to the psychological experience of isolation and detachment. As the building narrows, the floor plates become smaller, reducing the available office space. The physical act of ascending this narrowing space reinforces the feeling of moving away from the horizontal, connected world and into a solitary, vertical realm of ambition. Those who worked at the highest levels were literally separated from the masses below. The wind shear at the top is a profound sensory feature. The sheer, unyielding metal surfaces of the crown and spire cause the wind to whistle, howl, and roar as it is funneled around the metal arches. This creates a terrifying, non-human soundscape, the constant audible reminder that the building exists at the very limit of human engineering, constantly battling the elements. The wind itself seems to be angry. The terrifying taper is therefore the structural expression of the building's own ambition. It is the architectural representation of pushing the limits, defying gravity, and sacrificing stability for the sake of height and supremacy. The fear felt at the top is the psychological toll of that relentless ambition, a quiet, internal acknowledgement that such heights are achieved only at a great, unsettling cost. The building does not just stand tall, it actively imposes its height upon the senses, ensuring that anyone who reaches the summit feels the raw, visceral challenge of having ascended to the limit of the sky.
High within the building's spire, encompassing the 66th, 67th, and 68th floors, lay the famed Cloud Club. This private, exclusive lunch club was not just an amenity, it was a physical manifestation of the building's deep lore regarding wealth, secrecy, and the powerful few who operated literally and figuratively above the rest of the world. The Cloud Club existed as an architectural statement of exclusivity. Its patrons, the executives, bankers, and industry titans of the late 1920s and 1930s, paid handsomely for the privilege of dining and socializing at such an unprecedented height. This elevation was not just scenic, it was a potent symbol of their social and financial superiority. They were literally dwelling among the clouds. The lore of the club centers on the secrecy and the dark dealings rumored to have taken place within its walls. The club was inaccessible to the general public and even to most tenants of the building. Entry was restricted, ensuring privacy for high-stakes business negotiations, political maneuvering, and perhaps even illegal activities during Prohibition. Imagine the atmosphere. Heavy, dark wood paneling, ornate Art Deco furnishings, and a vast, unparalleled view of Manhattan and the harbor. The sense of detachment from the street below would have been profound. Deals made here were made with a literal God's eye view, reinforcing the idea that these men held a superior, unanswerable power. The club famously included a private, hidden bar, carefully concealed within the architecture during the height of Prohibition. This feature epitomizes the secretive nature of the club, a place where the rules of the horizontal world could be discreetly ignored and where illegal commerce could be conducted under the silent, distant gaze of the sky. The shadow of the Cloud Club extends to the architect's curse. The exclusivity and astronomical wealth represented by the club were in stark contrast to the financial devastation suffered by William Van Alen, who had created the beautiful space but could not afford to pay his own bills. The laughter and clinking glasses of the powerful men in the club would have echoed, symbolically, the cruel indifference that ruined Van Alen. The most powerful element of the Cloud Club's lore is its relationship with the spire. The club was located directly below the final secret sections of the spire. Its patrons were the closest human observers to the building's greatest secret, the mechanical rigging and the hidden elements of the spire's ascent. They were dining in the structural neck of the corporate dragon. The Cloud Club, long since dismantled and converted into high-end office space, remains a powerful symbol of the Chrysler Building's ultimate message, that the building was erected to service and celebrate unlimited, stratified ambition. The club was the quiet, luxurious engine that drove the corporate machine at the top of the world.
Below the ferocious stainless steel eagles on the 31st floor, the Chrysler Building features another crucial piece of Art Deco lore, a series of distinctive circular frieze medallions that mimic automotive hubcaps and tires. These symbols are not merely decoration, they are the explicit signature of the machine and the permanent physical link to Walter P. Chrysler's empire. These medallions are stylized representations of car wheels, tires, and hubcaps, the very components that defined the Chrysler vehicle. They are rendered in the Art Deco style, emphasizing speed, symmetry, and industrial precision. Their presence ensures that no observer can forget that this towering work of architecture is fundamentally a monument to the automotive industry. The placement of the medallions is highly symbolic. They are positioned low on the main shaft, well below the celestial height of the eagles and the crown. This placement represents the earthly ambition and the material foundation of the tower's wealth. The hubcaps symbolize the constant horizontal churning of industry and commerce, ground the building in the material world. The contrast between the materials is key. The medallions are typically set against the dark brick or terracotta of the main shaft, emphasizing their metallic sheen. They are the loudest architectural pronouncement of the building's corporate identity, boldly asserting the financial basis for the entire structure. For William Van Alen, including these direct corporate symbols was likely a necessary, though perhaps aesthetically painful, compromise with his patron. The lore suggests that while Van Alen designed the crown to be an expression of pure, timeless Art Deco elegance, the hubcaps were Walter P. Chrysler's personal demand, a crude, unmissable advertising plug stamped onto the body of the artwork. The hubcaps, therefore, are a permanent mark of corporate ego and the compromise of artistic purity. They are a constant, low-level reminder that the building's purpose was primarily commercial advertisement. They are the earthly anchor, preventing the building from becoming a purely spiritual or artistic object, binding its highest aspirations to the metallic, moving reality of the automobile. The serpent of the frieze completes the building's symbolic language. It ensures that the story starts on the ground with the material wealth of the machine and travels vertically upward through the artistic genius of Van Alen, culminating in the industrial purity of the stainless steel crown.
Despite the finished, gleaming appearance of the Chrysler Building, the lore suggests that the structure as it stands is ultimately an unfinished design, a slightly imperfect realization of the architect William Van Alen's grandest, most ornate plans for the spire. Van Alen's original vision for the summit was even more complex and daring than the crown we see today. His early designs included elaborate, ornate finials, glass elements, and complex lighting schemes that would have crowned the dome in a blaze of highly structured light and metallic ornamentation. These features were designed to amplify the building's Art Deco aesthetic and push the metallurgical possibilities even further. The lore suggests that these elements were eventually cut for cost and time. As the pressure mounted in the race for the world's tallest building, Walter P. Chrysler, always prioritizing speed and financial control, ordered the complex, unnecessary details to be simplified or removed. This decision, in the architect's eyes, was a betrayal of the building's ultimate perfection. The final secret spire that was assembled within the building was, by necessity, a triumph of functional geometry and speed, not necessarily Van Alen's ultimate artistic ideal. The simple, clean arch design was chosen for its rapid assembly and reliable performance under high wind load. The quiet regret associated with the unfinished design is profound. Van Alen's professional ethos was based on the idea of the perfectly realized structure. To have his masterpiece completed, but in a slightly diminished state, was another heavy blow to his spirit, a subtle flaw that only he, the creator, could truly see. The existence of the missing finials and secret plans contributes to the lore of the architect's ghost.
It is believed that the ghost, in his perpetual inspection, is not just guarding the existing structure, but is also mourning the lost potential, the final perfect ornamentation that was stripped away by corporate pragmatism. This lore makes the building a profound statement on compromised ambition. It is the world's greatest Art Deco skyscraper, yet it is a monument to the fact that even the most determined genius must eventually bow to the realities of budget and corporate deadline. The sleek, unadorned perfection we see at the top is also the permanent record of the details that were never allowed to flourish. The unfinished design reinforces the sense of tragic beauty that surrounds the building. The Chrysler Building is perfect enough to capture the world's imagination, but flawed enough due to these omissions to sustain the legend of the cursed architect who could never truly complete his masterpiece to his own high standard.
Above the main corporate blocks and beneath the elaborate crown lies a quiet, almost forgotten world, the upper office floors of the Chrysler Building. These spaces, particularly those above the 50th floor, carry a unique, pervasive atmosphere of solitude, detachment, and intense quiet that contributes to the lore of the architect's spectral presence. Due to the structural tapering of the building, these upper floors have smaller plates and are often irregularly shaped, giving them a distinct sense of intimacy and enclosure. They are the farthest from the street, shielded from the noise and chaos of the city by their elevation and the massive stone walls. The sensory experience of the solitude in these upper rooms is profound. The only audible sounds are often the distant hum of the building's mechanical systems and the faint, high-pitched whistle of the wind traveling past the glass. This intense quiet amplifies the feeling of being detached, a sensation that the occupant is floating above the world, operating within a privileged, separate realm. The light in these spaces is also unique. The immense height ensures that the windows receive pure, direct sunlight, often above the haze and smog of the city. The light is sharper, clearer, and more intense. This clarity of light contributes to the lore of the ghost in the glass, the belief that the intense, pure illumination makes it easier to perceive things that are not quite solid, like a fleeting shadow or the reflection of a solitary figure. The lore suggests that the ghost of Van Alen is particularly active here. These were the floors where his final design details were finalized and where the corporate executives, who ultimately betrayed him, carried out their work. The architect's quiet, watchful presence is felt most strongly in the isolated corners and empty hallways after hours, where the solitude allows his spiritual energy to settle. The isolation also enhances the sense of corporate power. Executives working on these floors experienced a profound vertical hierarchy. They were literally closer to the heavens and further from the masses. The solitude was not just physical, but a symbol of their untouchable status. The quiet lore of the upper spaces reminds us that the Chrysler Building, for all its public grandeur, is fundamentally a tower of intense isolation. It is a vertical retreat for power and a lonely repository for the spirit of its creator.
forever bound to the solitude and clear, unblinking light of the highest glass and stone. The solitude itself is the final, constant reminder of the price of supreme ambition.
To fully appreciate the Chrysler Building's lore, one must understand the fierce, silent battle of egos and engineering that defined its construction. The race to the sky against the Manhattan Company building at 40 Wall Street. This brutal, competitive contest is the primary driver behind the building's most secretive architectural features. The rivalry between the two projects was deeply personal and highly public. Walter P. Chrysler and his architect, William Van Alen, were pitted directly against their former professional associate, H. Craig Severance, who designed 40 Wall Street. The battle was fought publicly in the newspapers, where the height claims of both towers were tracked almost daily. But the real engineering warfare took place in secret. The lore emphasizes the competitive spirit that drove the pace. Every week was a deadline. Every rivet was a point scored. The engineers and construction crews were motivated by an intense desire not just to build, but to win the title of the world's tallest structure. This aggressive spirit pushed safety limits and fostered the atmosphere of secrecy and speed that contributed to the curse. The moment of crisis came when 40 Wall Street topped out and publicly claimed the title at 927 feet. This announcement forced Van Alen and Chrysler's hand, cementing the necessity of their hidden countermeasure. The silent, brutal contest culminated in the deployment of the secret spire, Section 2. The act of constructing the final 125 feet inside the building, unseen by the rival team, was the architectural equivalent of a checkmate. It was a perfect, sudden, and devastating act of competitive supremacy, securing the final height of 1,046 feet. The triumph of the Chrysler Building in this race is what gave the structure its defining sense of unbridled, victorious ambition. The building does not just commemorate a man, it commemorates the act of winning, the triumph of cunning, engineering, and resourcefulness over a rival. However, the brutal nature of the contest is also what allowed the architect's ultimate betrayal to occur. In the immediate aftermath of the victory, with global fame secured, Walter P. Chrysler saw no further use for the man who engineered the win. The intense focus on victory provided the perfect cover for the subsequent professional injustice. The race to the sky imbues the Chrysler Building with a permanent high-octane energy. The tower is forever linked to the aggressive, competitive spirit of the late 1920s, a fixed symbol of the intense, silent warfare of American corporate ambition played out on the vertical plane. The building itself is a perpetual metallic monument to a rivalry won by a cunning, decisive secret.
As impressive as the Chrysler Building's crown is by day, its transformation at night through intentional illumination is a profound ritual of material alchemy and celestial symbolism. The carefully orchestrated lighting scheme is not merely aesthetic, it transforms the cold, industrial steel into a glowing beacon of Art Deco power. The ritual involves the complex system of lighting installed behind the steel arches of the crown, as well as floodlights pointing up the shaft. The light sources, originally simple white or colored bulbs, are designed to interact with the highly polished stainless steel Enduro Ka2. The reflectivity of the steel ensures that the light is caught, amplified, and dispersed, making the crown appear to glow from within. The perpetual illumination performs the final alchemical stage of the tower. It takes the industrial material, the nickel and chromium alloy, and through the application of pure light, the celestial element, it transforms the steel into a shimmering, golden, ethereal structure. The tower is no longer an office building. It is a celestial beacon, a towering light dedicated to modernity and ambition. The selection of specific colors for certain events, such as red and green for holidays, further reinforces the ritualistic nature of the lighting scheme. The crown becomes a massive architectural mood ring, silently communicating with the city below through coded light. The lore suggests that the constant, intense illumination is also a form of spiritual consecration. It ensures that the building's peak is never truly in darkness, serving as a perpetual guard against the shadows of doubt and economic collapse that define the era. The light is a declaration of permanence and resilience in the face of the Great Depression. The light ritual is a perfect expression of Walter P. Chrysler's ego. The crown is lit to be seen from the greatest possible distance, ensuring that the corporate advertisement is visible from all angles. It is a nightly performance, a dazzling display of wealth and power, asserting dominance over the city's skyline. However, the light also illuminates the architect's ghost. It is in the stark contrast of light and shadow on the stainless steel arches that the ghostly presence is often felt strongest. The intense illumination emphasizes the perfection of Van Alen's geometric design, while the shadows within the arches remind the viewer of the hidden sorrow that was built into the structure's core. The perpetual illumination of the Chrysler Building crown is a nightly ritual that transmutes metal into magic, transforming the industrial skyscraper into a timeless symbol of celestial aspiration and a constant, silent declaration of triumph.
Beneath the elegant lobby and the expansive original garage lies the true subterranean heart of the Chrysler Building. The complex network of tunnels, deep foundations, and integration points with Manhattan's colossal underground infrastructure. This hidden world speaks to the building's roots in the raw, messy reality of New York. The construction required drilling deep into the bedrock of Manhattan schist, necessitating massive caisson foundations to anchor the immense steel weight. The lore of the deep foundation work emphasizes the struggle against the earth, the physical reality of having to pierce through layers of clay and stone to achieve stability for such a soaring height. This deep connection to the bedrock is the building's ultimate tether to the world. The lore also includes the integration of the building with the city's utility and transportation tunnels. The Chrysler Building is deeply embedded in the network of underground subway lines, particularly the 42nd Street and Lexington Avenue lines, steam pipes, and electrical conduits. The construction involved careful, tense maneuvers to build the foundation around these existing active transit networks, giving the building a literal mechanical connection to the flow of the city. There are quiet rumors concerning abandoned sub-basement levels or unused service tunnels. Like many massive older skyscrapers, the complexity of its utility needs meant that certain areas, perhaps small, sealed rooms used for early mechanical operations or secure storage, were eventually decommissioned and simply sealed with concrete or brick. These silent, inaccessible spaces form the basis of the lore surrounding hidden areas deeper than the main garage. The subterranean heart represents the raw industrial power necessary to support the artistic spectacle above. The elegance of the spire is only possible because of the massive, unyielding mechanical reality hidden far below the street level. It is the necessary dark half of the building's vertical duality. The lore suggests that the constant vibrations felt in the deepest levels, the low-frequency hum of the subway, the thrum of the steam lines, the mechanical noise of the ventilation, are the building's true, unceasing pulse. The tower is not silent. It is constantly vibrating with the subterranean energy of the city it overlooks. The tunnels and deep foundations remind us that the Chrysler Building's curse is anchored firmly to the earth. The energy of its ambition, rooted in the automotive industry and corporate ruthlessness, flows directly up from this dark, powerful foundation, giving the light of the crown its ultimate, grounded power.
The ultimate, unavoidable tragedy that forever shadows the Chrysler Building's gleaming success is the story of the architect's non-payment, the financial and professional devastation inflicted upon William Van Alen by Walter P. Chrysler. This silent failure is the enduring emotional core of the building's curse. The professional relationship between the two men was fundamentally broken by the time the spire was raised. Following the triumph of securing the world's tallest title, Chrysler refused to pay Van Alen his substantial final fee, claiming irregularities in the contract or excessive spending. The amount owed represented not just his profit, but years of his personal and professional capital. The lore emphasizes the cruelty of the timing. Van Alen was betrayed at the very moment of his greatest professional triumph. His name was being celebrated globally, yet he was forced into a devastating, drawn-out legal battle that ruined him financially and professionally. The silent failure is that the Chrysler Building, the most beautiful expression of Art Deco architecture, became a monument to professional injustice. Van Alen saw his masterpiece instantly claimed, his name marginalized. The building carries Chrysler's name, not his, and his work uncompensated. His career never recovered. He was professionally broken by the weight of the betrayal. The architect's non-payment is the foundational curse placed upon the stone. It suggests that the building's incredible success was built on a foundation of ethical bankruptcy, that the pursuit of ambition
as embodied by Walter P. Chrysler, could completely annihilate the genius that made it possible. The lore suggests that the architect's bitterness was so complete that he rarely, if ever, returned to the completed building. To look upon the structure would have been to confront the gleaming, unfeeling proof of his financial and spiritual ruin. His ghost, therefore, is not a memory of his life, but a permanent manifestation of his unresolved, deep resentment. The silent failure ensures that the Chrysler Building is eternally viewed through a dual lens: breathtaking artistic perfection and cold corporate treachery. The beautiful arches and the shining steel are permanent evidence of the architect's creative triumph, while the building's name and the history of its creation are permanent evidence of his personal tragedy. The elegance of the steel is permanently poisoned by the bitterness of the betrayal.
We conclude our journey into the quiet lore of the Chrysler Building by reflecting on the structure's final form and the stone's enduring hex. The building is an overwhelming fusion of opposing forces. Cold industrial steel meets warm, dark marble. Spiritual verticality clashes with earthly corporate greed. This powerful, successful tension is the source of its lingering, cursed energy. The hex of the stone is the building's unshakable identity as a monument to unbridled, pure ambition. The building was built to win, to advertise, and to dominate, with no concessions made for humility or spiritual consecration. The result is a structure that radiates an energy of ruthless, cold success, powerful but fundamentally unpeaceful. The final form successfully integrates the dark geometry of the lobby, the earth and the machine, with the alchemical crown, the sky and the ideal. The architect's genius forced these disparate elements, the car hubcaps, the African marble, the stainless steel, into a single soaring narrative of the machine age. But the very success of this powerful fusion is what sustains the curse. The reflection on scale reveals the ultimate human cost. The building's immense height and flawless metallic perfection overshadow the quiet tragedy of its creator, William Van Alen, whose professional life was sacrificed for its glory. The scale of the success directly correlates to the scale of the injustice. The structure is engaged in a perpetual duality. It is simultaneously a beautiful, artistic triumph and a cold, silent symbol of capitalist ruthlessness. The architect's ghost watches eternally, ensuring that the gleam of the stainless steel crown can never completely erase the memory of the deep, painful betrayal at its foundation. The Chrysler Building does not stand merely as an architectural relic. It stands as a shining, vertical warning. It is a monument to the dangerous power of obsession, the fragility of creative genius in the face of corporate power, and the inescapable truth that structures built solely on ambition will forever carry the heavy, reflective shadow of their own creation. The metallic arches will continue to gleam, and the stone will continue to hold the hex, in a state of beautiful, endless, quiet unrest.